out of everybody here, who wants to see Samoa Joe possibly back in NXT?
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad you said it. Okay.
Loki's down for it.
Yeah.
So I heard maybe about a good 2.5 hours ago.
Yeah, I heard it yesterday. I saw it yesterday.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, it's been rumored that that Samoa Joe had been spotted at the Performance Center, and that NXT was thinking about re-signing him to there. And the moment that I heard this, the whole conversation of who could be Karrion Kross popped into my head. And outside of right now, the way Adam Cole's being booked, Samoa Joe, no question,
Yes.
could do this. Period.
And I will say this. If your pick of Karrion Kross wins and Samoa Joe comes right out after that and starts beating the shit out of Kross,
that would be nice.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think, even if he had his no compete, it wouldn't even matter because he's being signed to basically the same company.
Yeah.
So yes, ASAP, please, because NXT.
I was talking to the missus, and I was like, maybe we need to start entertaining the fact that NXT is separate from WWE. Maybe we have to start looking at NXT almost as a separate entity rather than a third brand. Like maybe we might have to look at NXT because I don't understand how they're doing so much things right. And WWE doing so much things wrong. It should be the opposite. They should be struggling on NXT and WWE should be just thriving. Like I just don't get it. Personally.
As a Marvel fan, I like to equate NXT to like say the Ultimates. Like what was that, 6106? Is that the Ultimate Universe?
No, 616 is 616 is the main.
Yeah, 616 is your main, which I guess would be your SmackDown and Raw, which honestly aren't doing too hot. But think of NXT as the Ultimates.
Yeah.
Where you got gems like Miles Morales from, you know?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
I think one of the main issues is a big trust issue because I mean you have case in point the creative teams. Everybody answers to Vince on the main roster. That's an audience of one. Whereas you have Regal, you have
Trips,
Road Dogg, you have Shawn Michaels, you have Trips. They all Trips trust them to kind of with their minds and everything, and whoever else they have on there as well. So it's not just them catering to Triple H. Triple H, he pretty much picks the talent at this point, and then he just kind of goes with whatever they think is best. You know, same thing. I mean, think about even before that, Dusty Rhodes. Everybody praises Dusty Rhodes for the way that he groomed the talent. Yeah. And, you know, nobody's out here saying, yo, Triple H did this, Triple H did. They just say Papa Trips because he's overrunning everything. But at the end of the day, they praise the people that's pushing them now. I mean, you hear Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, you know, et cetera, Velveteen Dream. They all praise, you know, Shawn Michaels because he's the one that pretty much groomed them in this whole process as well. So, I think it's a big trust with the creative team on NXT rather than it is on the main roster. And again, you never hear any of the performers or superstars complain about backstage or creative. Whereas on the main roster, anytime somebody leaves, Mox, Pac, et cetera, they always complain about creative on the main roster. So,
and that's always the weird thing because many people get so upset and they immediately blame Vince. Now, one wrestler I heard blame Vince. Nobody ever blamed Vince because I mean, even Chris, because Jericho was saying, Vince is on his top list of the bosses his top 3 bosses he ever worked with, and he was like, Vince was never really the issue; it's the creative. And the problem is that sometimes when you have to go through so many channels, you don't want to do that. So we got to stop truly looking at Vince McMahon as the issue. And sometimes it might not be Vince's fault. Some of these things happen. And, not to try to shoot Vince bail or nothing, but it's hard to be a man who has over 200 plus employees, 300 plus employees, and you can't really expect a 70-something-year-old man to truly know everything that's happening.
Be so ingrained, yeah.
True. Well,
I mean, because there's difference. Because in Nick Khan's case, Nick Khan is late 30s. I mean, sorry, Tony Khan, late 30s, early 40s. He can be in the know.
True.
He could be in the know, which is funny because I heard about complaints about the football club he owns in England. Apparently he's a shitty football manager, but that's in England. But
that's across the pond,
Yeah, that's across the pond. But it's easy for him to be in the know in AEW's case. And who's to say if AEW ends up being a company that stays around forever, he's not going to always be in the know forever. There's going to be a point to where Tony Khan is going to take a step back. And other people are going to be running the day-to-day.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, I mean, you think about it back in the day, we all praised Vince on like the Attitude Era and everything that he done, that he did even previously, during, and then after the Attitude Era up to, maybe Triple H's reality era that was going on.
Yeah, the reality era. Because I mean, even the Ruthless Aggression era, he was still.
That was weird.
Yeah, you just kind of just disappeared on us, like abandoning the tag team right now.
For a second, it just showed nothing on the picture, and then showed the spinning circle on everybody, and then it just kicked me out. I'm not even sure what's going on.
I thought you pulled the whole walkout on your tag partners.
I ain't going heel to that degree yet.
But yeah, and I think even during the Ruthless Aggression era, because that's around time where he kind of put trust within Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman to run the shows respectively. So I don't blame Vince entirely. I mean, there's a part of me that does, because he has to take some of the blame, especially when you hear about the rewrites. But I think this is a perfect segue, and I don't know if you had this on the docket, Scoot, but Trips having some words to say about the fans.
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna say this. Well, go ahead and say what Tripp said, and I'm gonna give you my feelings on that.
Yeah, basically, just to kind of paraphrase what Tripp's saying, he had an issue, and I thought it was just for NXT, but he actually had it. He had that gripe about the main roster, about basically fans kind of too busy predicting what's supposed to happen and too worried about where the story is going to end up, and not just going along for the ride and actually just spoiling ourselves to the point to where we get on all these message boards and these Reddit threads and stuff like that, and just trying to kind of just predict and then try to get all these rumors and all these leaks and stuff to try to figure out what's going on or what's going to happen. And to a degree, he is right, because as wrestling fans,
and also don't forget, it kind of ended up with the whole, if you watch it, you watch it. If you don't.
True. And which is why I'm not watching Raw,
And to be perfectly honest with you, I was going to say this because I've been seeing a lot of people discuss this on the internet and everything. And all these people were kind of upset at what Tripp said. He's 100% correct.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, take for instance here. I don't know who's sitting here is a Kardashians fan, but if you're going to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, you're going to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, even though it just ended. If you don't, you don't.
It's over?
Yeah, it just had a series finale. But
are they spinning it off or some shit?
I wouldn't be surprised. But it's just like any forms of media. If you want to watch the MCU, go watch the MCU. If you don't want to watch the DCEU, don't watch the DCEU. If you want an Xbox, get an Xbox. PlayStation, get it. If you want to watch, I mean, he's not lying. Regardless of how he might have said it, at the end of the day, that's life.
True. Now,
do what you want to do and move on.
I'm going to disagree with that a little bit, but go ahead, Jaeger.
I was saying there's a little support behind that from my end, because I don't know, I talk with other friends that are also wrestling fans, and I see it on the message threads and whatnot. I don't know, we get so wrapped up in our expectations of where we want a title to go or where we want certain characters to go and everything. So when they end up getting like not so much shafted, but if they start going on a losing streak and when we start like not liking it, or if somebody wins over a championship, we're going to start throwing around our disapproval and whatnot instead of just, as Triple H is saying, just sit back, relax, enjoy the shows for what they are, enjoy the matches for as they are, because like as much as we don't want to see nobody wants to see Charlotte and Asuka in the ring again, like against each other again.
Yes.
However, they do put on some pretty good matches, like if you catch the highlights and whatnot. So it may not be your cup of tea, but it's still the entertainment that people might want to look for, even though it's like the 50th time we've seen it within 3 months.
And I'm glad that both of you had laid those assessments out like that, because that adds to what I was going to say, because my disagreement, well, I agree with everything y'all both said, but my disagreement comes into what he said in terms of being able to watch where the story goes. I'm fine with that. I am perfectly fine with that. Case in point, we think about SmackDown with the Roman Reigns storyline and everything with that. And then on NXT, where we think about everything that they do on that end. So I'm just going to highlight, let's just say the Xia Li thing, for instance. Just like I stated earlier this week about how I felt about where that story was going and my disapproval with it, but then me being caught back up. Yeah, I didn't like it in the beginning, but I came around as I watched it. And I even stated this earlier on the NXT Tag Me In, where I stated, from at this point, I'm not going to question, I'm going to shut up and watch. That's for NXT, because I trust NXT to do that. But if you sit there and then you pair that with Raw and you think about all the stuff that's going on with that, I can't agree with that same sentiment when it comes to Raw, because it seems like it's always going nowhere and it always leads to it. And you think about the start-stop motif that they have going on. You think about Hurt Business, where that seemed to be perfectly going somewhere, and then you end it with no reason whatsoever. It didn't go anywhere. You had Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander wrestling back to back for 3 weeks straight with no story. That's going nowhere. Then you have Cedric now just being jobbed out to Jeff Hardy all of a sudden. Shelton Benjamin nowhere to be found. Then you have Bobby Lashley off on his own, and then to have MVP kind of paired with the remnants of Retribution, but then they're not paired. So it's like,
wait, is MVP not managing Lashley anymore?
No, he is. No, he's still with Lashley.
Yeah, it's just, but it's just the fact that there's like, and then you think about the Fiend and the Alexa Bliss stuff. Alexa Bliss has the Fiend's aura, powers, whatever, and it seems like she's in a stale thing right now, because it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Like, and she's just now about to have her first few weeks if she's done this.
Yeah, and then I'll say, and I'll say this about Charlotte. As much shit as I give Charlotte about every fucking week, there is some good in Charlotte. Charlotte is a fantastic heel. She's good in the ring. She does her job as a heel. When she has a championship, it's not a bad thing. It's just the amount of times they put the championship on her for no reason. But when there are specific reasons when she has a title where it actually means something, I have no problem with.
Yeah.
But when you have situations where you bring her back just to take Lana out of a situation to put her in there just so that way she can be a Grand Slam champion in the women's division, it makes no sense. So that's my gripe. But as far as what y'all said previously, I agree with everything, because in that case, that makes absolute all the sense.
Yeah, I mean, so for instance, let's truly put it in perspective. At the baseline, Raw and SmackDown roughly gets 1 million fans per week. Whether it's 1 point whatever, at least they hit 1 million. Let's say at the baseline, AEW gets, let's say 700,000 at the baseline. At the baseline, let's say NXT does 600,000. Those numbers are going to be the people who are going to be there every week.
Oh, that's your base. Yeah.
That's your base. Wrestling is not as culturally popular as it used to be.
Very true.
And the age we're living in now, which a lot of people, I guess, hasn't realized, it's hard now to bring in new people to anything. Basketball and football gets the fans they get because it's basketball and football, regardless of the interchangeable parts, not to disrespect any of the athletes. Basketball is still basketball, football is still football, soccer is still soccer, baseball is still baseball, all of the above. Hockey is still hockey, NASCAR, all of these sports are going to mainly get the same people because they love that sport. Same thing with wrestling. The problem with wrestling is wrestling's interchangeable parts are cultural icons. Because too many of the people I knew was like, yeah, I started watching wrestling when Rock left, or hey, I started watching wrestling when Stone Cold left, stuff like that. Those were cultural icons. They were beyond wrestling. They blended into just entertainment, period. Thing is, with wrestling, John Cena and Batista will probably be the last ones to truly do it. Because I can't see John Cena and Batista will probably be the last ones to truly that's going to blend into pop culture like that. So, yes, because I know Cornette preach about this all the time, saying about how wrestling used to do 4 or 5 million. We get that. The problem is that it will never get back to that because too many people have moved on. And let's just face it, there's a lot of outlets of entertainment today. Because we're starting to see it with AEW's numbers. AEW is competing with basketball that's on the same network, and because of basketball, AEW's numbers are slipping.
I gotta address that one because again, I'm seeing that on forums and everything about how people are tripping about basketball being the smart, like the thing that's taking all the shine right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like people seem to forget that Raw, SmackDown, they would get they would get overshadowed by Monday shows.
Monday night
footballs, debates.
Yes. Like exactly. So all this ridiculous like hate right now, or like anybody trying to be like, ha, look at y'all losing numbers. It's like to basketball, like this is a legitimate thing. This is the finals. This is the playoffs. This is something that, let's be honest, has a bigger crowd.
Exactly.
At least it's not losing shine to dog shows. It's not losing shine to things that are just honestly like, as let's just call it what they are, insignificant in comparison.
Yeah, and for those of you who are complaining and just like y'all sent out the whole petition thing that's going on to get basketball moved, that's fucking stupid. People of the IWC, stop making us look bad, please. Because that's like to be perfectly honest, like even if basketball was on a Friday like that, it would still probably suffer too. But at the same time, it may not, because of the fact that it's live like that. You have to realize this. We have DVR. If somebody is doing something on Friday, they're probably going to watch the shit Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, or whenever.
And not only that too, because you just brought up a good point. Outside is opening back up again.
Yes. Mm-hmm. People go out on Friday nights, Saturday nights.
People are like, fuck a TV. I am going to the bar, or I am going whatever. So
hey, guess what they're watching at the bar anyway?
Exactly.
Basketball, football, hockey, whatever the hell.
So we gotta stop harping on numbers and ratings and this, that, and the other, because nothing is gonna ever go back to the way it was. There's too many outlets. You talking about, look at how entertainment has changed now. People look towards YouTube, Twitch as outlets of entertainment. People look towards Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Discovery, HBO.
The list goes
on as outlets. And then you still got cable TV, who still struggles to get new people because of all these streaming services. So, for the numbers they get, it's not what it used to be 7-8 years ago or whatever, but it's still enough.
And you know what? Scoot, thank you, Scoot. Case in point, since you said that about everything opening back up, perfect example, because the very first Dynamite that was on a Saturday where Brody Lee won the TNT title, their ratings were 755.
Damn.
That was on a Saturday. So it's not the NBA.
No.
Stop complaining.
It's people's interest.
Guys.
It's the interest. Like if your interest just fades, your interest just fades. Fade, I mean. But yeah,
and
we just gotta stop.
And we'll touch on that one in a little bit once we get into the show.
Yeah, it's like, there are factors at play now that takes people's attention away. Because you got to think, when we were our ages during the Attitude Era, what were our only forms of entertainment? Either you're playing some type of video game, you're either watching TV, or you outside playing.
Yeah, at the same time, it was must see TV, because if you missed out on it, you were going to be out of the conversation the next day when you were at school.
Big man.
Yep.
So
I remember breaking my parents' little bedtime rule just to watch like Raw for another hour, 8 to 10.
Same. So was Triple H's delivery might have been a little wrong, maybe, but was his message in the 100% right? Yes. If you're gonna watch our product, watch our product. If you're not gonna watch our product, don't watch our product.
Plenty of other shit to do.
There's plenty of other shit to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's not wrong in this statement.
But that's why I mean, granted, part of that. This is why I kind of feel bad for Triple H just a little bit, because especially on some of these calls, because he's always the man up front answering these questions, because you don't have only calls Vince get on are the
shareholders and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So he has to answer these tough questions, and he has to sit there and save face. He can't just sit there and just be like, oh well, shit, main roster shit. They fuck up all my talent when they go up there.
That'll be some wild shit.
Yeah, but he can't say that. But maybe down the line when Triple H gets a little older and we get one of these behind, the dark, maybe Trips gets the dark side of the ring for like Vince McMahon or something like that, and they say, yeah, I had to deal with all this bullshit. I didn't want to say anything, and I always have to cover ass on everybody's. So yeah, I look forward to that episode.
Me too.
If that ever happens, but yeah, like. I digress. But yeah, those were the only two things that I think that I was. Yeah, that was I still had in the doc. Oh, well then shit.
Yeah, that was really the whole Samoa Joe comments.
I mean, this is kind of baseless. I mean, I'm sorry, not so much baseless, but we all know that a certain man by the name of Tommy End, as of right now, had a certain interview with Renee. She asked him like where he'd like, or who he'd like to wrestle, or where he'd like to go, and then he started spouting out how he would like to wrestle plenty of people that are in Impact and AEW, and a couple in Ring of Honor. So I don't know. He didn't really express interest in wanting to go back to being Aleister Black. But I mean, hell, if the money's right, I mean, look, the Good Brothers even went back and said no to the Bucks. So,
well, let's look at it like this. And since we're on this, when was that interview for Oral Sessions?
Hold on, let me look it up right quick.
Might have been
this week.
And
let's see. Let's see. That interview came out Tuesday.
Okay.
So it was probably recorded maybe last week.
Okay. And so on top of that, we talked about the rumors of WWE wanting him back on Thursday. So interesting timing wise.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, the fact that he showed interest in that, and which also means, and this goes back to Booker.
I mean, Mr. Dizzle, if you have beef with the one Booker T, you could just tell him.
I don't. Look,
You can just let us know. It'll be fine.
No, I have no issue. I mean, I respect him. It's just some of his opinions, which I just like I said last time. It's just it seems like he shills a little bit for WWE, and it's hard for him not to. I guess since he is
still
under contract.
Yeah.
So but that doesn't sound like somebody who doesn't have it. Especially if he can just say, "I want to wrestle these people here, here, and here," and him signing at one place allows him to do that under one contract. And then all of a sudden there's rumors like, oh, well, we may have made a mistake. We want to bring Aleister Black back.
Yeah.
And, I look at things kind of on both sides of the fence. I don't necessarily take everything face value. And the reason why I say that is, who's to say in the future AEW doesn't start doing this?
True.
Who's to say in the future AEW doesn't start saying, hey, if you're signing to AEW, you're only working at AEW?
It's a little less restrictive with them since they did kick open the forbidden door, started working with other promotions.
But that's the thing. It's restrictive now because they're only in year 3.
Yeah.
WWE is in year WWE is in like year 50. So let's say when AEW, let's say in 2031, AEW is like, nah, fam, you only here and here only.
Yeah, I mean, look at it like this.
Could be a thing.
It could be a thing. It's just the fact that I think honestly what happened personally, a lot of the people they were hiring early still had dates. And it was like, hey, I can't miss these dates, but I do want to sign with y'all. So to be the progressive company, to be the cool company, okay, cool. You can work those dates. We'll let you work, fulfill your obligations to New Japan or to this promotion here. But at the end of the day, you're here. So, I mean,
right.
But who's to say 5 years down the line, hell, even next year, AEW puts a clamp on all of that.
Even though they're doing it, even though they're being open with it now, all it's going to take is a situation like Leo Rush that happened to somebody else. You get enough talent that gets hurt on other shit, and to where they can't complete their contractual obligations for AEW. Tony Khan's gonna have to be like, yo, I got to buckle down because if y'all keep getting hurt outside of here, then I can't do what I'm doing here. So, it's definitely possible
because everybody's favorite wrestling manager. He would, because listen to some of his stories he would tell, as long-winded as those stories may be. He would say a lot of the reason why it worked out so much back in the territory days, because it was like, well, hey, let me borrow Roman Reigns for a month and I give you Kenny Omega for a month. Okay, well, the people in Tennessee didn't know what was happening in Virginia. The people in Texas didn't know necessarily the ins and outs of what was happening in Florida. Right. You were able to keep it within that state unless somebody was passing it around because they didn't have a social media. They didn't have things like that. So you was able to keep that. Whatever Roman Reigns is doing in this town, he's able to do differently in this town. He might be a heel in Florida, but a babyface in Louisiana. Because the people in Louisiana, if you look at it, if you apply it today, WWE is the biggest company in the United States because they travel everywhere. Right. So it's like AEW, a close number 2. So it's one of those things to where social media and everything, you can't get that secretness of wrestling. So with WWE saying, the only thing I dislike about it is the whole they're independent contractors, but
contractors.
Yeah, that's the only thing I hate, that whole independent contractors thing. But yes, you can get seller's remorse. You can get you can get buyer's remorse. I'm pretty sure right now there might be a few folks in AEW that they're like, I can't wait till they contract up. They just won't say it right now, but I'm pretty sure they feel that way. So the enticement of the indies and the enticement of wrestling guys on your checklist is pretty high, because when you're quote unquote tied to a company for so long and you start to see, I mean, hell, somebody like Tommy Ian, he could have wrestled Brody King 4 or 5, 6 years ago. But now Brody King is a different Brody King. Brody King has stepped his game up. He has been like this, like, no, I want to wrestle that version of Brody King. And I personally feel Tommy Ian should just do a tour. Once his no complete clause is over with August 31st, he should just do him a good 1 year lap tour, sign some, kind of like how Matt Cardona was doing. He was like, look, I'll wrestle for your promotion for about a month. So I can do that way I get a chance to wrestle this person, that person. And if he wants to go back to WWE, because he might have felt safe and secure there, let him go.
True.
You know.
I didn't think of it like that, but that's good. Yeah. I mean, it's what Cody did, but he just didn't go back.
Yeah, true.
So like I said, so yes, AEW looks like the cool kid on campus because like, oh no, they're letting their wrestlers do this and do that. But I do remember one thing people looked over with AEW. They basically said too, if Moxley wrestles for New Japan, it has to be in Japan. It can't be in the United States since he represents AEW.
But he defended his title twice.
Yeah.
But it was in AEW's. But didn't he go to New Japan to do the defense?
He did. He did the New Japan one with Kenta, but he defended against Yuji Nagata on
AEW's banner.
Yeah.
So you know, and kind of like what Dizzle just said, if somebody, let's say they loaned out fucking the Acclaimed, and the Acclaimed was supposed to be the next team up, and Anthony Bowens get injured working at this, all right.
Yep.
They will clamp that shit down.
And let's not forget.
And you know, perfect example with NBA and the NFL. It's in their contracts during the off season. You can't do shit that'll get you injured.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna cost you and them money.
Riding motorcycles and all this other stuff. That's a no-no, because if you get injured, you know, you won't be able to fulfill your contractual obligations.
True,
indeed. Especially all the money they shell out to them, and
especially.
And the comparison between AEW and WWE makes even more sense with that too, because it's glossed over as well. But in the beginning of WWF, they did the same thing. When Cornette was over at WWF, they were still bringing. I mean, think about when the Rockers were over there going against the Hart Foundation. The Rockers were not signed to WWF at that time, and the same thing with when you had Midnight Express. You had people from NWA coming over to WWF and then going back over. Same thing later on. They did the same thing with ECW, where you had Jerry Lawler going over there and feuding with. I think he feuded with Raven at a point, and somebody else, and it was the same thing. So. Yeah, I know. Granted, we shit on WWE all the time over this shit for not playing nice, but you know, like Scoot says, 50 years in the biz, it's a business move, and they're just securing their assets. So, yeah, it's anything's fucking possible.
I mean, okay, Jaeger or Lip, take somebody in AEW that's not one of their top stars.
You talking about Archer?
Okay, we can take Archer. Lip, you throw out somebody.
QT Marshall.
Take QT Marshall, as he wants to be pronounced.
Marshall.
Let's say QT and Lance Archer gets loaned out and they go wrestle in Impact, or hell, even look at that.
You know what? Since
AEW
you brought
wasn't
up
too willingly to send people to Impact, but that's a different story. But
since you brought up Impact, I'll change from Lance Archer to Private Party.
Okay, Private Party and QT Marshall. QT and Private Party start wrestling, and let's say they get bigger being loaned out than they are in AEW. They're gonna be whoa. We're gonna go ahead and take these guys back. We go whoa. There are talent. So I understand that they was getting popular over here, but we're gonna go ahead and bring them back over here because we're gonna try to take that new popularity that they have and make sure it's brought back to here. To here. And probably nobody will blink an eye to that.
Damn, that's layers on top of layers, because then you can have Impact getting mad at being like, we just made your star bigger over here, so I think you may owe us a little something.
You may owe us something, exactly.
On the end of, like, let's just say Private Party and QT Marshall gets big headed and say, I want to renegotiate this contract because I just upped my stock. So shit, that's a shitload of shit.
It's got a potential to be a storm, but
I mean, because you got to think, Rock, Stone Cold, John Cena, Batista, the price just went up.
That's true. And that does make sense.
Especially The Rock, Vince. I can go do this movie for $15 million. The price just went up. If you want me to wrestle, Oh, John Cena. Oh, I got Fast 9 coming out, fam. Yeah, I told the fans I'll never betray WWE, but I got a movie coming out that's about to be the movie of the summer, potentially. The price just went up if you want me to show up. Vince don't want to ever lose that leverage again.
Hence the budget cuts.
The price just went up.
It's no new stars or no mega stars. There we go.
Because Jim Cornette had said